Okay, and my name is Katie Moore. I am the Director of Client Experience here at Payentry. I work currently with our customer service departments as well as our new client implementation group. I do have my contact information here below. You may recognize my name if we haven't worked together directly. I do send out many of the updates and communications regarding new system functionality, general updates, office closures, things like that. So please feel free to save my contact information. I'm happy to speak with any of you at any time. So my email is kmore@payentry.com and my phone number is 704-464-0822. I'm based out of our Huntersville, North Carolina office, but I work with all of our offices across the country. So I'm available to speak with any of you, no matter what location you're serviced out of. So today we're all gathered to talk about the COVID-19 assistance module. It's a brand new screen that we've added into our Payentry Next Gen platform. If this platform isn't something that you've seen before or logged into before, please feel free to reach out to either myself or your dedicated client advocate, and we can get you some more information regarding the use of this portal. So the new assistance module has been added to your Payentry dashboard, so to the main screen in the Quicklinks section down at the bottom. So as you can see at the bottom, we have several of the other services that we offer, and then have the button, the heart there with the little navigator, the COVID-19 assistance button. So if you click that button, it'll take you to a page that looks like this. The COVID-19 assistance in blue above is the top of that screen. And then we do have several items that will accordion out and open as well. So this is a brand new area that we've added to the system where you can review and you can pick during which date range any earnings that you've paid that have been applied to tax credits and the amount of those tax credits or deferrals. And I'll get into a little bit more of these separate pieces as we go along. So the first section is in relation to the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. I apologize, I am working from home, so I have my dog jingling tags there. So it's for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. This first section is going to show all of the earnings that you've paid in relation to these FFCRA leaves, and are going to be broken out not only by type, but also by check date. So on the left-hand side, you have each check date that those earnings were paid, and then down the middle column, the earning type that you've used. So if you have employees that you're paying the child leave, the dependent care, or the sick leave with any of those new codes that we've added in the system during this time, all of the earnings that you have paid during this time will be broken out in this area. The second section here is for the tax credits that have been applied to payroll. So the previous screen were the earnings that were paid out to employees. This screen details the tax credits that you received for each check date because of using those earning types. So on the left-hand column, you'll see check date. So the date that those were paid. In the middle, you see that those credits relate to the FFCRA, as we looked at on the screen previous. And then it'll have the amount of credit that you received with each process. The next area shows you the employer Social Security tax deferrals. So if your company is taking advantage of the deferment of the employer portion of Social Security through the CARES Act, also known as the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the amounts that have been deferred with each payroll are shown in this next section by check date. So the check date is in the first column there again. The credit type this time relates to the CARES Act, as it's specifically for the deferral of that employer portion of Social Security, and also the amount that was deferred. I did have a question that popped up while I was going over this area that I think is great to share with the group. They asked if we have earnings that have already been paid that fall into one of these categories during this time. The system will take a look back and is able to pull in anything that's been paid to this point for display. So from the time that you set up the deferral, so the check date that you did the deferral beginning with, will show on this CARES Act area, and any earnings that have been paid in the past will show up in the FFCRA area. Okay, and then moving on to the next portion here, I also wanted to share, before we go deeper into the module, I also wanted to share some changes that we've made to reporting for both the FFCRA and also the CARES Act. So the payroll summary report that many of you receive or run with every payroll has now been configured to show both the FFCRA credits and the CARES Act Social Security deferrals if you're participating in these programs. So I pulled this snippet from the report. This shows up directly underneath where the rest of your taxes are detailed. So for example, if you are deferring employer Social Security, it will show up in that first tax deferral section. It is a federal income tax related tax. The OASDI employer portion, the deferral CARES, so that is for the Social Security portion of Medicare. And then if you look all the way out to the right, it shows the amount that was deferred, that $372. So in the module, you're able to see per check date that exact amount, but this is also how it relates to your specific payroll and those specific reports and how it shows there and is broken out. This is also a great place to look, if you're looking payroll by payroll, at the amount that you're deferring, starting to get an idea of what you'll be needing to pay back as those move forward. Those are the places that you can look to get this information. The next section below are for the tax credits that are related to the FFCRA. So that will show you if you used those CRA earning codes, the child leave, the sick leave. This will show you what tax codes or what tax deferrals and credits were applied to those earnings that were entered in. So you have the total of the employee amount and the employer amount that was set as a credit in the system and you were not drafted for, and it's all broken out for you, and there's a total on the right-hand side. Again, this information also shows in the assistance module that we looked at previously. This is just a snippet of the payroll summary report that has now been updated to include this information. So moving on further with the module, we also have a section that relates to the Paycheck Protection Program. If you have yet to apply for a loan, or if you want to review the reporting as it relates to the Paycheck Protection Program, we do have a report that we've created both for, before the loan when you're gathering the information, and also that will show you a breakout of information after. This specific part of the module will point you to our reporting area so that you can go out and run this report. So when you open up this section of the module, it will have this blue button here for go to reporting, and it will bring you to the company reporting area where you can run this report. Currently, the PPP analysis report is located underneath this miscellaneous reports section. You also have the option when you come into company reports to type in PPP here, and it'll bring up this one report for you. So if you run the report underneath the time frame that you're looking for the information, you get 2 pages of information. And this is what has been released previously, but it shares with you during the time period. This one is a demo company and it has 1/1/2019 to 12/31/2019. It shows you the employees that were paid, any employer cost of health insurance, retirement benefit cost, the employer, state, and local taxes that relate to those employees and a subtotal. It also breaks out the eligible compensation for the employees and then also the total compensation for during the time period. This next page also shares the calculation of the information prior and gives you the number down at the bottom. This is a report that many of our clients have used successfully to apply for the loan and get the information that they need. The report is versatile and has the option to exclude the federal taxes and also the FICA taxes, and also to include those based upon the current interpretation of the guidelines. There are two different things that we've been seeing. So we made the report versatile so that it could do both. So if your bank is asking to see things a specific way or asking to have them reported a specific way, the report can do both versions of what people have been asked for. The last portion of this module also includes some links and some sources of information for you. So we have the CDC, Mammoth HR, we have some other frequently asked questions from other sites, and then we also have access here to our Payentry COVID-19 update page. So I wanted to include a little bit of what that looks like for you and what can be found out here. So the link is here, www.payentry.com/COVID-19. If you go to payentry.com, there's also a link up at the top that says COVID-19 updates, so you're able to access the site from there as well. So out here, we have blogs regarding any new legislation or any new system functionality that we're releasing. We also have the schedule and the ability to register for any upcoming webinars related to any of the items above. We also have an area for questions where you can ask our HR professionals, specifically our VP of HR Services, Kathy Graham. She's fantastic. She may have already spoken with many of you that have questions. And I have the contact information for HR Services at the end of this as well. But you are able to see questions that people have already asked our HR professionals, and you can see the answers that have been provided. So all of this is available out on the site. If you haven't gotten a chance to take a look out there, there is a ton of great information that a lot of people have found incredibly useful during this time trying to sort through all the questions that they have. So I put a note here at the end. If you have any system-related questions, feel free to reach out to me or to your dedicated client advocate. The client advocates have reviewed the same information on the system. They should be able to help you get any answers that you need. I'm also happy to help you at any time. If you have other questions that aren't related to how you make changes in the system, you can also send inquiries to hrservices@payentry.com, and that'll get you connected with Kathy, as I mentioned, to help answer some of those questions. So if you're wondering about layoffs or how specific things should be coded, Kathy's been fantastic, again, helping clients navigate everything through this time. So I'll just take a moment here. I'm going to look back up through the questions. If anybody has anything else that they've thought of while I've been talking here, if you want to go ahead and type into the chat, give me just one moment to read through, and then I'll see if I can answer any of the questions that have already been posed. So we had someone ask, is there a code for PPP? So for funds that are being paid out specifically with the Paycheck Protection Program, there is not a specific code for that in the system. If that's something that you're wanting to track separately, if you're wanting to see that, instead of regular earnings, if you're wanting to see it coded as PPP, ask your client advocate and they can add something to the system for you. As wages are being paid during a specific time frame, typically what we would do is we would just time box the reporting when we go to run that so that you're able to report what you need for the PPP. I also had a question. A client asked, if we have paid sick leave in the last 2 pay periods, do I need to recode it as FFCRA sick leave? I would say yes. If you are or were hoping to take the tax credits for those under the FFCRA, then we would want to go in, I believe, and make an adjustment. I'll have Kathy Graham reach out to you regarding the specifics of that piece, just in case you have any questions about if it should be coded as FFCRA or not, based on the way that it's been used. So I'll have her reach out to you regarding that information. We had a question about how is the CRA SiC code reported? As it relates to the reporting, that is a separate earning code. So if someone's using the CRA SiC code, that code would be keyed along with payroll, and then along with payroll and would show up on your labor distributions, payroll registers, things like that, and the appropriate credits would be taken from the codes based on that earning type. I had someone ask, is there an additional fee for the COVID-19 service? There is not. So this is something that has been added out to the Payentry Next Gen portal for all clients. It's something that we've created just as a resource for you, so you have a way to look at everything all in one place. We wanted, there's a lot of things circulating, there's a lot of questions, so we wanted to do our best to try to get all the information in one place for everyone. Really so you can use Payentry as a resource during this time as it relates to your payroll, or any other questions that you might have that fall outside of payroll that can be answered by some of the links that we provided. We had someone ask how the tax deferral works. So for the deferral of the Social Security taxes, we have something, if that's something that you want to turn on, you would want to reach out to your client advocate. They would send you a form to have you sign, and then we would get you set up in the system. Basically what we do is the system would then not draft you for the employer portion of the Social Security. Those funds that are deferred, it is a deferral, so those do have to be paid back. I believe it's half by the end of 2021 and half by the end of 2022. So if that's something that you're interested in doing and making that deferral, reach out to your client advocate or to Kathy, the HR services, or to me, and I'm happy to talk through any other questions that you have with that. Regarding specific portions of the PPP report, or something that you're looking for, if you've run it and you haven't seen it, and things like that, I have some questions here. I'll reach out individually so we can take a look at your specific situation. I also see a couple questions that I think would be great for me to forward on to Kathy. And Kathy should be able to help assist with those questions as they relate to FMLA and some of these other items. And also, again, some questions about what should be coded as FFCRA. We also had some questions, will there be a future report to track PPP qualifying amounts from each payroll? So what they're in the process of doing right now is updating the current PPP report so that it has that information as well. It already will pull in, if you run it for during the period that the PPP relates, so anything that's been paid under that, it does still provide that breakout and that information. but we are going to be working on updating that report to have it have more detailed information regarding the PPP qualifying amounts that were paid out. And that's something that's currently with our developers. Some other questions just regarding specific reporting and what they're looking for on their company. So I also had someone ask, we've been paying everyone as regular, our school has been closed, we applied for the PPP and received the grant. Do we need to change the code? I think if we're, internal tracking, if that's something that you need, then that's something that we can definitely do for moving forward, just to kind of help you track. So when you run a report, you can see that these were PPP earnings. But again, if you have received the grant for the PPP and you're going to be paying your employees out with those funds for moving forward, what we would do is we would take a look at, if it's starting on the next payroll, for example, when we run your typical payroll reports for the next period, we would be able to run those for that period, and then for any period moving forward where you paid using those funds. So we would have access to that. We also have, with the payroll summary report, it shares what the source account is and all of that. If you have a separate account that you're using for your PPP, that will also show up there, that bank account titled PPP is the account that the funds were paid from. I was asked if the deferrals would be retro to capture any of the Social Security, the employer portion, if the system would go back and defer those amounts. They will not. My reference to the system retroing was just to say that anything that we just added this module on this weekend. So anything that has already been deferred or has already been paid out using those codes will show there in the module now that we have it, but it will not go back and defer, Social Security from before we started that service for your company. And so I had a couple questions about that that I've answered. So I'm just clicking through to see what else we have here. Couple more specific questions. It appears that relate to kind of some HR type things. So I'll work with Kathy to get answers for those for everyone. Is there a way to use your PPP reporting to check against qualified to be forgiven, for example, number of people requirements? That's something that we are going to be updating the report with. Again, that's with our development team. So we are going to expand that report to have it be more of a resource. It was created initially for when you're requesting the loan, the information that you need. And now that people have gotten the loans, while we've been, while those changes have been made and after the report was released for its initial purpose, we immediately began working on the report to release it with an expanded version to have that information as well. I don't currently have the release date there. I'll be getting with development and finding out for you, but we are going to be releasing additional functionality on that PPP report. Had some people ask as well, if we use the CRA SiC code, do we need to do anything to get the tax credit? You do not. If you've used the CRA SiC code for the child care, for the dependent care, if you've used any of those, the system automatically handles the credit. And if you go and run the payroll summary report from the payrolls where you've used it, you'll see that section where I showed the tax credit for the FFCRA. Also some questions regarding when you use which code. Again, I think I'll work with Kathy to try to get those answers out for everybody that relate to more of an HR services perspective. I had a client ask as well, when will we see the COVID icon on the Quicklinks? That should be something that you're already seeing. If you are not using the version of Payentry that looks like the one that I showed you, reach out to your client advocate and they can help you get logged into the other site. It is the same credentials. There is also a link to get logged in there out on our Payentry website. If you need to go there, if you go to our Payentry site and navigate to the service location that you work with, there is a link out to the Payentry Next Gen as well. But if you have questions on how to access that information, reach out to your client advocate and they can make sure that you can see that. The COVID-19 assistance module is only released on Payentry Next Gen. Someone asked, can you draft the PPP funds out of a different bank account? You can. If you applied for the loan maybe with a different bank than you use typically, and you need us to draft out of that account for moving forward, you'll just want to get us the banking information as soon as possible so that we can make the change in the system. With any bank account change in our system, what we require is we send you a test transaction and you will confirm that test transaction in the amount of less than $1 that lets us know that you are the owner of that account. So that process does take, we receive the information and then we're able to send through the test transaction for the next business day. So it does take a couple of days. So if you have that new bank account and you're needing us to make that change, go ahead and get it in once you have it so that we can start that process and get your company transfers updated to pull from that new source account. And just still clicking through here. Again, if I don't answer your question, it is only because I feel like it may be worth a conversation to talk about your specific situation. I had someone ask, when you receive general HR answers from Kathy, will you share those with everyone? For example, questions about coding. Absolutely. I'll work with Kathy and we can get those added out to the frequently asked questions out on the website. That way everybody's able to see those answers as we receive those. Okay, and it looks like I've come to the end of the questions that were asked that I feel like relate to the group as a whole. Again, like I mentioned a moment ago, we'll reach out individually and we'll get some of those HR type questions posted. If you have any follow-up questions, something that you think of after the call, or feel like you need more information about, again, please feel free to reach out to me, to hrservices@payentry.com, or to your dedicated client advocate. I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much for partnering with Payentry. Hope everyone is safe and healthy, and just know that our thoughts are with everyone during this time. Hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Thank you.